Throughout mine and many of your lives, we have had them calendar marker games, the ones that you're counting down the days leading up to its release. Well, Elden Ring was exactly that for me. It feels like it's been an age since its announcement and it's finally releasing in a few days. It promises the same formula of dying, and then dying some more, but this time all within an open world. But how does FromSoftware's airtight design hold up in an open world environment? Well, that's what I'm here to answer in GameXplain's review of Elden Ring. The game opens with a cryptic yet intriguing cutscene. The Elden Ring has been shattered and the gods of the lands between are introduced, leading me to wonder where or when I will fight these monstrosities. Typical of other FromSoftware games, there is quite a lot of jargon spewed over the player. The rest of the story is delivered through small conversations with NPCs and item descriptions, and at this moment in time, I'm a bit lost on it. I was never one for delving into the lore myself. I've always waited for YouTubers like VadiVidya to help me in this regard. There is a typical character creator here with 10 classes. As per usual, I picked a bandit, wielding a dagger, a buckler and a bow, partially because the reviewer's guide specifically pointed out that range combat was much revamped, but more on that later. After this, Elden Ring wastes absolutely no time in throwing you into the open world. There's an optional tutorial that teaches you the ropes, but if you played any of the previous titles then you'll know what you're doing. Except for jumping. Even after 40 hours it feels weird to have a dedicated jump button in a FromSoft game. From minute 1 the world is begging to be explored. You see the first sight of Grace, which is the game's equivalent to a bonfire, also known as the game's checkpoints, and there's once again an NPC speaking in some cryptic dialogue vaguely pointing you to where you want to go. And from there the choice is yours. Maybe explore the broken down churches off in the distance, or brave the giant covered beaches to the left, or, and though I would advise against it, attempt to fight a massive golden warrior. Yes, I tried it, and no, it didn't end well. After my first death, it didn't take me long to realise just how many places I could visit. I found a statue that led me to my first dungeon and optional boss. I snuck into a camp littered with soldiers that once again killed me. And not too long after that I unlocked Torrent, a half cow, half horse mount that can inexplicably double jump. The freedom was staggering and I was engrossed in exploring the lands between from beginning to end. The game organically led me to points of interest, meaning that I rarely felt compelled to check my map. The only thing guiding me was my sense of discovery and the odd line from an NPC. Although there are times when the game is almost too cryptic. I'm not going to spoil anything, but I was stuck at one part until I discovered the solution in the reviewer's guide that cleared it up for me. It was extremely frustrating and I don't understand how anyone would figure it out without looking up the solution. Perhaps I missed something, but by no means should I need a guide to figure out something vital to progression. No matter what challenge awaited me ahead, I was always handsomely rewarded. The stellar area design of the previous titles returns too, but with a twist. Just like previous games, the areas are labyrinthian mazes littered with enemies and items that are just begging to be explored. There is finally a dedicated jump button and it's reflected in the level design. I was always on the lookout for jumps to make, which usually led to a shortcut or a powerful item. In some cases, if you're clever enough, you can sneak past whole groups of enemies with just a few jumps, and I love that FromSoftware gave us the choice to do so. Sometimes a point of interest might be holding an interesting NPC or some enemies to kill with loot to scavenge, or best of all an interesting boss fight to put my skills to the test. While I do have some issues with the repetition in optional areas, it's something that plagues every open world game, so it's not new here. While I can show later areas, each one is unique with distinct enemies, bosses and structures, making them highly memorable. It gives me similar vibes to Breath of the Wild if we replace the environmental interaction and puzzles with pure Souls-like combat. While there is no climbing or gliding, I haven't got lost in a world like this since Breath of the Wild. Add to the exploration a grueling combat system and there's no wonder why anyone could fall in love with this game. And speaking of combat, all the trappings of a Souls-like game are here. Dodge rolls, light and heavy attacks, along with more weapons and armour than any one person knows how to deal with. I chose a dexterity build for my playthrough, opting to use dodge rolls instead of a shield as my only method of defence. Combat feels the same as previous Souls titles and I loved it. I was afraid that the combat wouldn't translate well to an open world environment, but them worries were laid to rest quite quickly. On a challenge level, Elden Ring seemed similar to Sekiro, where the normal encounters felt slightly less tense than those of Bloodborne or Dark Souls, but slip up once or twice and you're dead. So there's still plenty of challenge here. It plays similarly to Dark Souls 3, which is my favourite combat in all of the FromSoft titles. I feel there's a heavier emphasis placed on weapon arts. I found one weapon early on that had an amazing weapon art that saved my ass on more than a few occasions. I'm glad to say that running through the many castles, towns and dungeons of the lands between was equal parts stressful and exhilarating. I'm still creeping around each corner hoping to see the shimmer of the yellow light of a sight of grace. The main areas, or levels if you want to call them that, feel like a Souls game, but there's a whole new type of combat, and that is Horseback Combat, which adds something small to do while traversing the world. You can perform heavy or light attacks on both sides of your horse. Smaller enemies like basic soldiers and wolves are easy to handle, but at times you'll run into other mounted foes or bigger enemies that will destroy you if you're not careful. Yes, some of the encounters are made easy on horseback as you can gallop off into the sunset, but I think it's a worthwhile trade-off for the benefits in exploration. I think some purists might dislike the calm feeling of exploration, but I adored the shift in tone. There are a few moments of respite in the more linear FromSoft titles, and I thought the sheer amount of moments like this in Elden Ring might have cheapened the feeling, but it wasn't the case. I'm sure everyone is curious about the boss fights, and to me they're a bit of a mixed bag, with some incredible highs and some unfortunately low lows. So let's get the good bits out of the way. The amount of boss fights in this game is staggering. The world is littered with them. Some might be at the end of a cave or dungeon, most of them are at the end of the game's larger levels, if you want to call them that, but they are also found in the open world. I won't spoil any of the main bosses, but they're all standouts for the series. One in particular was unlike anything I had seen before, and it was epic. I wish I could show it, but you'll just have to wait and see. I was tearing my hair out dying upwards of 20 times to a few, but the payoff of finally beating them and shouting whatever profanities that left my mouth is as amazing now as it was back in 2012 when I first played Dark Souls for the first time. It's just a shame that I have to avoid spoilers in this review because I could relentlessly gush about a few bosses. Now, unfortunately, not all bosses are created equal. Some at the end of the optional caves and dungeons are hit or miss. Some are challenging, others are a complete cakewalk, and unfortunately some feature repeats of bosses that I had already defeated. Look, the fights are still fun and the rewards of new items and runes meant I was always rewarded for my efforts, but some were quite unremarkable. This didn't detract from my experience too much, as I personally will take a few repeated or lackluster boss fights if it means I have an awe-inspiring open world to explore. While FromSoftware is a master of world building, combat and level design, they have certainly struggled technically in the past, and Elden Ring doesn't fully buck the trend. I tested it on two systems, my laptop and desktop. And on my desktop I could run the game comfortably on high to max settings at 1080p or medium to high at 1440p. But on my laptop I had to drop the settings to low to medium at 1080p. Most of the time it ran fine with the odd frame drop here or there, especially in the open world, but at random the game would stutter, and in some cases outright freeze for a second or two. I initially thought it was an issue with my Radeon GPU, but the same issues occurred with the RTX 2060 on my laptop. Luckily this mostly happened while traversing the world at high speeds, but it did happen a few times during combat, which was super frustrating. Unfortunately, we didn't have much time to test out the PS5 version, but from the opening area the game has some issues. There are two modes, one that favours performance, the other quality. I'm no Digital Foundry, but framerate mode was struggling to hit 60 FPS at points, so I was quite disappointed with my limited testing. Quality mode looks noticeably better, but I can't go back to 30 FPS, please don't make me do it. The stutter that I had on PC didn't show up while I was playing the PS5 version, but I think I would still prefer to play this game on PC. From a graphical standpoint, the game looks like any other Souls game. It's nothing special when it comes to textures or foliage, but when you add it all together, the world looks phenomenal. The weather effects help sell the tone of the world. Some areas are covered in a dense layer of fog which can quickly lead you astray. Other areas are littered with ruins of old settlements and castles that are just drab. Combine these visuals with some dreary music and it makes for an extremely immersive experience. Fortunately, it's not all doom and gloom on the visuals. When the sun comes up in the wide open grassy plains of West Limgrave, it looks stunning, especially when you have the golden hue of the Erd tree in the background. There were some amazing views in the previous Souls games, but none of them compared to what Elden Ring has to offer. As always, the music is brilliant too. The somber tracks emphasise the dreary nature of the world, and the hefty orchestral boss fight themes make them all the more epic. But I can't end this review without mentioning the title theme. I was blown away when I started the game, and each subsequent time I stopped to listen to it for slightly longer than I should have. Even though 2022 has just begun, I'd be surprised if Elden Ring is dethroned as my game of the year. Yes, there are some shortcomings like some unmemorable bosses, but everything else is fantastic. I got lost in the world enjoying the tranquility of galloping towards a castle, only to be promptly knocked out of it by whatever eldritch horror awaited over the horizon. I never thought the open world format would work so well with Souls-like gameplay, but yet, here we are. Breath of the Wild is the only other open world game that has engrossed me as much as Elden Ring, and there is no better honour in my books, and that's why I loved Elden Ring. Thanks for watching GameXplain's review of Elden Ring. If you want more great content, then check it out on the right. I really appreciate your time, don't forget to subscribe to GameXplain, and I'll see you all on the next video.